PlayStation Now is a subscription service that launched with a lot of criticism, and rightfully so, but more so recently, I feel like Sony has been doing a really good job with this service for a wide variety of different reasons. Namely, they're now allowing full downloads on PlayStation 4 games, so it's very similar to Microsoft's service in that regards, where Microsoft with Game Pass lets you download your games directly onto your console. Originally, PlayStation Now was designed to be a strictly streaming service. Now with the PS4 games, you can download them directly onto your console. Unfortunately, with PS Now, in my opinion, the majority of the quality from the service comes from the PlayStation 3 game offerings, and those games of course are not playable natively on the PlayStation 4. Hopefully with the advent of the PlayStation 5, PlayStation Now will continue to just get better and better, and we can download all of the games on that service. We can download PS5 games, PS4 games, and PS3 games, hell, PS2 and PS1 games for that matter as well, to really create the most compelling subscription service possible. On top of the fact that we can download PS4 games, they're also offering the service a little bit cheaper. I would not recommend to pay $20 a month for PlayStation Now. That's just too expensive for any subscription service, comparatively speaking. Game Pass is only $9.99 a month, and that's offering you all of the first-party Microsoft game releases. Before all the memes in the comment section where people are saying, what first-party Microsoft game releases? I get where you guys are coming from, but there are games like Crackdown 3, Forza Horizon 4, Gears of War 4 on there. There are some quality games on there, and of course, with PlayStation Now, we won't be getting a Days Gone. We're not going to be getting a Last of Us Part 2. We're going to have to pay our $60 for those games, and I definitely understand why Sony's going that route. However, PlayStation Now continues to become a better service, and now we've got March's update for the service. As always, every month, Sony rotates in new games, and I have to say that March is a high quality update month. Now, I also do have to add that the PlayStation 4 offerings for the month of March aren't that good, and as I've said, the PlayStation 3 titles are where the quality really comes in from, and that is the case in March, and I thought that wasn't going to be the case for a little bit because it seemed like Sony was lagging behind on the PlayStation 3 updates, but good to see them getting back to it because I think any PlayStation 4 owner, they already own the marquee PS4 titles, but if you're a younger gamer, if you had, say, a 360 back in the day, or if you just want to revisit a lot of those games that you haven't played in so long, having the PlayStation 3 games a part of PlayStation Now is one of the selling points as well. Also, I do want to take a look at the most played PlayStation Now games during the month of February. I'll look at that at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that as well. And with the update, I want to go over the high quality games first, and kicking things off, we have arguably the best PlayStation 3 game ever released, and that is Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. Now, this is timely for a couple of reasons. Unfortunately, this was just offered as a PlayStation Plus title. However, of course, unless you have your PlayStation 3 still out here, you're not downloading that natively to your PlayStation 4 and playing it. So now at least you have a way to play it on your PS4, although it's not natively, you are streaming the game. MGS4 is such a good game, and why it's very good that this game is being added, if you don't know, last month they actually added the Metal Gear Solid HD collection. So now if you have a PlayStation Now subscription, not only are you getting Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, you've got Metal Gear Solid 2 in there, you've got Metal Gear Solid 3 in there, and you've got Metal Gear Peace Walker. The only thing we're missing is the very first Metal Gear Solid game and the NES titles, but hey, you're getting a large portion of the Metal Gear experience here. Metal Gear 2 is great, Metal Gear 3 is great, Peace Walker's fantastic, and Metal Gear Solid 4, of course, I can't say enough great things about that game. That was one of the titles that I think many would consider to be the first true system seller for the PlayStation 3, and I believe at that time the PlayStation 3 was still going for $400 or $500, so it was a steep investment, but for a game of the quality level of MGS4, it was well worth it. And now with your PS Now subscription, you can check out MGS2, you can check out MGS3, Peace Walker, and 4. That is awesome. Another great PlayStation 3 game offering is Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge was one of those cult classics back in 2008. It didn't release to a lot of fanfare, but over the years, I think a lot more gamers took notice of Mirror's Edge, and it definitely showed because it did warrant for the follow-up title in Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Now, I can talk a lot about Mirror's Edge Catalyst. You guys know that game was a little bit disappointing. Some may go even as far as to say it was the most disappointing game of this generation. I don't know if I'd go that far with a game like Mass Effect Andromeda happening this generation, and by the way, those are both EA titles. How about that? But Catalyst was still an okay game. However, now that you can go back and stream the very first Mirror's Edge, I think there's a lot of quality to be had here. I actually don't recall if this game has trophies, which that's a little bit of a bummer because this is a 2008 game and trophies were only put into every game on the PS3 in 2009, so that might be a little bit disappointing. But as far as fundamental gameplay goes, Mirror's Edge is a really interesting game, highlighting those parkour elements. The gameplay is just so unique, and unlike Catalyst, it follows a very linear game design, which to a casual gamer these days, you might think, oh my god, the game's linear, that must mean it's not as good as Catalyst, but no, in the case of Mirror's Edge, that linearity really helped accentuate its gameplay, and it just made the game better in comparison to Catalyst. I think Catalyst's more open design actually took away from Mirror's Edge's fundamental gameplay, but go back and give Mirror's Edge a look with your PlayStation Now subscription. It's a high-quality game that I would recommend everyone to check out. Also, you do have Dead Space 3 being added in here. Okay, so I can talk about Dead Space 3 for a while, because Dead Space 3 is probably the weakest in the Dead Space franchise. The reason being is it goes more of an action-oriented route. They did try to add multiplayer. There's a cooperative component. It's not a bad game by any means, but I just thought so highly of Dead Space 1 and 2 that this is a far cry in terms of quality. Dead Space 3 is still a worthwhile game to go through. Again, you can play through it cooperatively, and just having it as a game in your PlayStation Now subscription, that's where these games are really benefited, because it's not like you're dropping a full $59.99 on it. It's just another game as a part of your PS Now subscription, and I do believe from a commercial standpoint, Dead Space 3 did weaker than Dead Space 1 and 2, and Dead Space is a franchise with some notoriety, so gamers could just be browsing the PS Now offerings and see a Dead Space 3, and it could be a game they want to check out. In terms of quality level, again, weaker than the first two titles, but still worth a playthrough. Okay, so those are the 3 games that I really think highlighted the month, all of them being PS3 games. I think the rest of the games offer some quality, and I want to go through them quickly. Specifically, they added some sports games as well, and I think those are good additions to PS Now, because while the core gamer is not going to be interested in a variety of different sports games, the thing is, there are definitely people interested in those games, and offering those games as a part of a monthly subscription service, that's good. You want to have a variety of different experiences offered, and I'll go through those games in a little bit. On the PlayStation 4 side of things, we do have a Bastard's Tale. That game touts deep gameplay. You constantly have to adapt to how enemies attack and defend. 5 levels to beat with over 20 unique enemies to conquer. This is a very small budget game, but a game that people aren't going to buy standalone, but as a PS Now offering, it's fine. Battlefield 4 is being added. Here's the bummer about this one. It's not the PlayStation 4 version of Battlefield 4, it's the PlayStation 3 version, meaning you can't download the game, and technically speaking, the PlayStation 3 version of the game isn't as good as the PS4 version. Cool to have it in there, but just a bummer on that regard. Black Knight Sword is being added. Black Knight Sword is a game that I didn't even know about, but I did some research on it. Looks like a pretty cool side-scrolling action game. You're armed with a magical sword and you use it to defeat your foes, and the game also features elements of platforming. Pretty interesting game. Wasn't a gigantic critical success, but a cool game nonetheless to be added. Black Mirror, this is a PlayStation 4 game, was also added. This is a game that I was actually pretty excited for going into it because I thought the premise was so cool. It's a third-person adventure game set in Scotland, 1926. Following the death of his father, David Gordon visits his ancestral home for the first time in his life, a life that is soon threatened by a dark secret that claimed the sanity of many Gordons before him. It's a story-driven game. Unfortunately, not received all too well at a 54 on Metacritic, but cool to see this be added as well. Couple games that I think that are just cool to have on PlayStation Now just because of the experience they offer. We got Pac-Man Championship Edition 2. Great to have a Pac-Man game on PS Now. Don't see anything bad about that. Pac-Man is one of the most iconic games in history. That is absolutely not hyperbole, and to have that on PS Now, that's a win in my eyes. NBA 2K18 is being added. Hey, it's a basketball game. There's definitely going to be an audience for that. As far as the sports offerings go, we have WWE 2K18 again. There's going to be an audience for that. I believe they had the other years of both of those games on there as well, but those were removed, and now they have more recent offerings, so that's pretty cool. And it's not like with either of those it's 2K15 or 2K16, it's 2K18, so it's just a year prior to the most recent one released. You've also got Pool Nation in there. That's a PS3 game, so a little bit of a bummer that it's only streamable, but a pretty cool pool game, a game that was received very, very strongly. It was also put out on PC, and if you go to the Steam page on that, the reception has just been really, really strong for that, so it looks like a pretty cool pool game. And another game that's downloadable because it is a PlayStation 2 game, so not only are the PS4 games downloadable, but the PS2 ones as well. We've got Red Faction, the very first one in the series, a game that's a little dated at this point. I believe it released all the way back in 2001, so yeah, we're talking a game that's 18 years old. I know it's been forgotten about in recent years. We did have the recent release of Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered Edition. That game won the award for the worst title in gaming history, quite possibly. But cool to see Red Faction also be added to PlayStation Now. So those are all of the additions to PlayStation Now for the month of March. Those are 12 new games in total, so I would say a pretty solid update for PS Now. And lastly, I do want to go over the most played PlayStation Now games during the month of February. That list is being topped off by For Honor, then number 2 is Mortal Kombat X, number 3 is NBA 2K16, so you definitely see people are playing the NBA games, and now you've got NBA 2K18 being thrown in there. Mafia 3, WWE 2K16 is number 5, so now they'll be checking out 2K18. You've got Sid Meier's Civilization Revolution, The Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Unlimited, so that's a great offering on PS Now. Red Dead Redemption, of course, that's great. Unfortunately, not downloadable because it's a PlayStation 3 game, but to have that on PS Now is terrific. Sniper Elite 4, and then Prey rounds out the list, and that's a great game as well, directly downloadable onto your PS4. Again, do I think PlayStation Now is a service that's worth $20 a month? Honestly, from from a sheer value standpoint and all the games you get, probably, but considering you can get it cheaper all the time, I've seen it as low as $80 for a year, and at that point you're paying what, less than $7 a month, and at $7 a month for PlayStation Now, hey, that's an awesome deal. Sure, it's not as good as Game Pass in the sense that you get all of the first party offerings, but Sony's first party is so much stronger than Microsoft, it's not even funny. I can understand why they're not giving us, Last of Us Part 2, Days Gone, God of War, Spider-Man. Maybe we can get to a point where a year or two after release, those games will be added as backlog titles, but right away from the get-go, obviously, they're gonna try to get your $60, and I can't really complain about that too much. That's gonna conclude this video. Definitely let us know your thoughts. Have you subscribed to PlayStation Now? Are you still hesitant on it? Are you still not completely sold? Are you waiting for the day where all these games are gonna be downloadable? Because at that point, I really don't think you can say no to PlayStation Now. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.